You ever seen one of these before? This is what's known as a desert rose. Once I dreamed I saw a desert rose, but that's neither here nor there. Tonight, we are going to be doing a deep dive into one of rock's most enduring masterpieces. U2's Symphony to Hopeful Isolation, the Joshua Tree. And we'll be listening to this amazing album with an amazing Irish Golden Ale by Sullivan's. Irish comparisons aside, the ale itself just pairs very well with listening to this album. And that's what we're going to do this evening. So, let's drink some ale and listen to some records. As I said, we're drinking an Irish Golden Ale this evening, Sullivan's Irish Golden Ale. The thing about Sullivan's Irish Golden Ale is that it's a cream ale, similarly to another ale that is out of Kilkenny, Ireland, where Sullivan's is from, which is Kilkenny Cream Ale. And this has a similar kind of vibe as drinking a Kilkenny, with one key difference. It's got a bite. You drink it and you remember that you are alive. And something you don't often get with cream ales. Cream ales are smooth, easy drinking. They can be strong, but this one's got a kick. Not quite an IPA kick, but definitely a kick that is significant. And as such, it can be a bit of an acquired taste. I tend to really enjoy this ale. It is unique. What I like about it is that it has that bitterness, that almost like horseradish at a Seder, that reminds you of kind of the bitterness of the world around you in a drinkable way. And as I enjoy a Sullivan's Irish Golden Ale, it does make me think of some of the themes that we're going to be talking about this evening. Those themes being isolation, desolation, finding your place in a world where sometimes it feels like you are the only thing alive in that world, and somehow finding some beauty in that world and finding some hope in that world. And as I sip on this ale, that's what I keep coming around to. And it pairs particularly well with the album, The Joshua Tree. Because The Joshua Tree is, while it's a hopeful album, it's a bitter album. And its bitterness comes in this very symbol of this tree where it's the only thing living in this desert landscape. It's isolated, it's alone, and yet there's beauty in it. And so as we go through this album, we're going to go back to these themes. Now, some background on the Joshua Tree. The Joshua Tree is one of the U2 albums, Eno and Lanois. You can really hear Brian Eno's influence on this album and kind of the soundscapes that are created. It comes on the heels of the album The Unforgettable Fire, which was the first Eno Lanois U2 collaboration. Takes it in a completely different thematic way. Sometimes people say it's a more of U2 doing kind of an Americana album. Not the case at all. Rattle and Hum, they delve into Americana. There's nothing roots rock or Americana about this album. In fact, it might be U2 at their most progressive, just because of the themes and the complexity of the musicianship and what's going on in that, and that's probably due to Brian Eno's presence on this album. So let's listen to it. Wrong record here. That's the second record. Let's go with the first one. Start from the beginning. Now, one of the things that I find very interesting about this album is that while it's not a story in terms of a concept album, it's very much a concept. In fact, if you just, even beyond just kind of the themes of the album, if you notice lyrically, the album begins in the morning and ends at midnight. And in fact, this very long intro to the classic Where the Streets Have No Name really evokes that. And if you were lucky enough to see the Joshua Tree tour in the 80s or when they did it a few years ago, this song starts with the sun coming up in terms of the light show. So again, you have this sun rising over this barren landscape, giving color to this landscape, this red color. And at first, it's very beautiful. And then as it kicks on, it flashes, and it's unpleasant, and it's hard to deal with. And that's the album in a nutshell. So in Where the Streets Have No Name, you have the narrator saying he just wants to escape. He wants to get to that place where the streets have no name, which obviously he wants to go to a barren desert landscape. Interestingly enough, he got the idea, Bono did, when he was in Central America, and oftentimes the streets, even in the cities, don't have names. That's how he got the title. But the song is not about being in Nicaragua or anything like that. But it's an amazing way to start this album. What I find interesting about this and the whole album is sometimes people describe the Joshua Tree as a political album. Maybe Bullet the Blue Sky, maybe In God's Country. I don't note any politics at all. I note a lot of kind of internal philosophy in this album. Not a lot of political activism going on here. And actually, I don't note a lot of political activism in U2's music at all. By and large, most of Bono's lyrics deal with the loss of his mother, similarly to how Roger Waters, Pink Floyd, writes quite a bit about the loss of his father. Bono really writes about the loss of his mother, and sometimes it's very obvious, like the song I Will Follow, or Tomorrow of October, To Me Bad on Unforgettable Fire. The Joshua Tree has it in droves as well. And it's part of that isolation. And sometimes it seems like Bono's crying out for God, where's God? To me, Bono's probably crying out for a mother that isn't there, and that is creating this sense of isolation. So Where the Streets Have No Name fades into I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, obviously a major hit. And again, who is Bono looking for? Well, Bono's probably looking for his mom, but it is it's got that universal theme that we are all looking for what we're never going to find. And it drives us, it pushes us forward, but ultimately, we're in the desert. We're in the desert trying to find something. It's interesting that the video is in Las Vegas, because what is Las Vegas but an oasis in the desert? And you might be looking and maybe, but you're not going to find it in Las Vegas, which is really kind of thematically cool. Then this trilogy ends with, to me, is certainly U2, one of U2's greatest hit songs. It's really kind of U2's torch song, which is With or Without You. With or Without You has so many connotations, and that's kind of the genius of both the music and the lyrics. You know, he can't live with you, he can't live without you. Is that God? Is it the ghost of a deceased mother? Is it two lovers? Is it what is that? But it all comes to the same conclusion. It's that torment, that isolation, that feeling of loneliness, even if you're with someone else. Then we go to Bullet the Blue Sky. Bullet the Blue Sky to me is interesting, and again, one of the few kind of more political moments on the album, but even that isn't incredibly political to me. Bullet the Blue Sky is just kind of all the things that are out of your control. You know, what your country's doing, what's going on in other places, all of those things. What is fear? What does fear feel like? That bleeds right into Running to Stand Still, which is, again, isolation. This person in the song is turning to heroin. And again, it's that loneliness, that isolation all together. When we get to the second half of the album, we get to Red Hill Mining Town, which is the first video, actually, off the album that anyone saw. Red Hill Mining Town, again, wraps up the sense of isolation in this album. That you know, it's a mining disaster, kind of like the Bee Gees song, but he's hanging on. He's hanging on to that hope. He's hanging on to who he wants to see again. Again, a lover, a deceased mother, God. What is it that he's hanging on to? And again, really, really incredible sentiment in that song. This goes into In God's Country. In God's Country has some of the greatest lyrics on this album. My favorite being "We'll need new dreams tonight." Again, that barren landscape. And the irony of calling it God's Country. Then we go to Trip Through Your Wires, which is one of the more complicated songs on the album. This is the only touch of Americana we hear on the album, and it's very slight, and it's in the harmonica. Trip Through Your Wires is the selling your soul to the devil part of the album, which usually happens in almost every U2 album. It's Trip Through Your Wires. It's being lonely, and it's reaching out to someone who might not be great for you, or something that might not be great for you. Done in an amazing way, with an amazing sound. Again, this is probably Lanois' influence on the production, but really pretty spectacular. Then we get to the climax of the album, the final three, beginning with One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill is one of my favorite moments on the album. It wraps up the themes of the album. And it talks about what is enduring in that desert landscape. What is there to cling on to? And what is there to cling on to? The desert itself. Then we get to kind of, again, the denouement of the album, Exit, the dark, bitter theme of the album, and it's the suicidal end to someone who has lost that hope. It's a dark song, and it's a rocker. Then we get to Mothers of the Disappeared. Mothers of the Disappeared, like most U2 innings, and there's a few bands that really know how to end albums. U2 is one of them. Ghost is another. Iron Maiden is another. And this is a pretty perfect end to this album. Almost like a funeral, but a hopeful funeral. So you may ask, where is the hope in this album? The hope is in that sound that there is something to cling on to. And we all share being Joshua trees in this. And we can kind of cling on to each other. And so it's a great album. Obviously, I don't have to say that. The world says that. That's the Joshua Tree. That's Sullivan's Irish Golden Ale. In the comments, let me know your thoughts on the Joshua Tree. What's your favorite moment of the Joshua Tree? What do you think the themes are in the Joshua Tree? Did I get it all wrong? And let me know if you were able to go out and get Sullivan's and sample this great Irish Golden Ale. In the meantime, cheers.